Welcome back, everyone.
Hello.
Yeah, you take it away, Coach CeCe.
Oh man. But yeah, so welcome back again. So we are again in the home stretch of our 24-hour mental wellness and prayer support. So we're just coming before you, having a conversation with you, just to impart information, sharing with you all because you all are so important to us. And we just want to thank you for just allowing us to do this, what we do, and to just be a blessing to you as you all are blessings to us. And so, once again, my name is Coach CeCe, and I am the CEO and founder of Life is You, living in perfect excellence as you because you are enough. And I am with my beautiful, beautiful colleague. Could you tell them who you are, ma'am? Yes, she's doing the poses. Yes. There's no explanation. She already telling you. You just better get it from all the poses. Like
I was voguing them.
Vogue.
I didn't know. Vogue? Was that voguing?
Yeah.
Everyone, this is Dr. Sarah Renee. Now I'm giving the middle name now at this point. Dr. Sarah Renee Langley.
Hey.
CEO and founder of Lead Her International, where I help you with your ABCs, achieving, becoming, and conquering in your personal and professional goals through my premier coaching, counseling, consulting services to help you to become your truest, bestest, realest, bestest self.
Right.
Girl,
okay.
Before we go, look, we're coming down the home stretch. Everyone, we're coming down to the home stretch. Like, wow. This has been, again, we say this every time, but it has been an amazing ride. And again, I'm just so happy. I'm very happy to be part of this. And I tell you, I just really want to give a shout out to all of you because this wouldn't have been possible if you didn't have this need. And I want to thank my beautiful partner in purpose that she said yes to this, and wow. I'm just so happy because what kind of friends, what friend would actually do a 24-hour? Going strong, like come on here, right? So you gotta have a friend like Coach CeCe. I tell you, I'm blessed and thankful for.
Like I don't know the last time I ever was up this long for 24 hours. It probably was college or something.
Yeah, right.
Like or something, or maybe when my baby was born, because you really don't get to sleep or something. So it's been 20 years either way because I was in college then too. So it's been a while, but it's been awesome. It's been a great ride and a great journey. I've been learning some great things as well, learning about myself, and so it's all amazing as we impart information and knowledge to those who will hear it. We listen to ourselves as well, and so it's just been great, and it's my pleasure and my honor to be partner up with you, Dr. Sarah.
Yay.
Thank you so much.
All right. So now we got the mushiness out the way. Now we're going to get business. So what are we going to talk about right now, Coach CeCe?
We're going to talk about something very serious, and that is domestic violence, right? And so we're talking about different topics, and we're bringing up different topics as it relates to our current situation, which is the COVID-19 pandemic that we're in, right? And so how is it now affecting various things and various phases in our lives and what our new lives look like? And for many people, unfortunately, even before this pandemic, it was a horrible situation, but a reality to some that domestic violence exists in their lives, right? And so how I wish that wasn't the case, and how I wish even more now that this pandemic is occurring, that I could wave a magic wand and it could be no such thing as domestic violence, because we never have time for that. There's never any room for that, right? But it's a reality for some people, right? And so we would be remiss if we didn't, as we were talking about relationships, bring up this particular situation that could be happening in many homes, because now we have people who are being ordered to stay in place and to be quarantined in their homes, and it could be the very place that they try to escape from every day.
Right.
And that's the real truth. So what is going on in the minds of these people and these women and even these men? Like, what are they doing right now to change that? Not only just change it for the time being by like putting a bandage on it, right? Because that's what they were doing prior to this COVID-19 situation. They would put a band-aid on by going to work, not having to deal with it for those 8 to 10 hours. They would put a band-aid on it by, spending time at church all the time, right? Or they'll put a band-aid on it by, hanging over their girlfriend's house. But now when we can't, we're social distancing, right? The church doors are closed, and a lot of jobs are no longer, or they're working from home. What happens when you seem like you're trapped in the home with the abuser? Like, what can be done? I could even, my heart goes out, right? I don't know if I've read something or somebody told me, I don't know, something on social media where they heard like some banging and some screams next door, and then everything kind of got quiet, and then they were going to call like 911, but then things got quiet, and so they were just like, well, maybe it stopped. But they could only think about what was going on in the next apartment and thought, man, let's pray for those who are trapped in the inside with monsters, right? With people who are mentally unstable, with violent people. And so what can they do? Are these safe houses still open? Yeah, Dr. Sarah, tell me what you had said earlier about now, in your city or in Philadelphia, they're not even accepting, the police isn't accepting like calls for like non-violent, or because that's violent, but whatever you said. Tell us a little bit more about what you said earlier.
So at least in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, it was ordered by the commissioner with the police department that certain crimes were not part of doing any type of arrest for. So whether it's breaking and entering, whether it's robbing a bank, it's like they have decided on not arresting those non-violent type of situations. And it became such a concern for Philadelphians that everybody, well, not everyone, but many people were now purchasing guns, to protect themselves. And yeah, who ever heard of that? Like, wow, y'all changing the rules around, because right now it seems like what's more important is what we're going through with this pandemic, but picking and choosing what is
right
a violation versus what's not at this time in junction and in juncture, sorry, whatever the word I'm looking for right now. But at this point in time, it really adds more of a stress to many people. And it's just interesting how you don't think about it. You don't think about the dynamics that already exist. Like, I was looking at some of the statistics for those who are experiencing domestic violence or intimate partner violence. According to the Florida Coalition Against Domestic Violence, 54 to 84% of battered women, first of all, they already have this dynamic going on with their job loss or cut in hours, having to homeschool their children, trying to figure out where the money will come from, already in panic and shock, anxiety and depression. Now you have to add this on top of it. 54 to 84% of battered women experience PTSD. Look, first of all, this is going to be a global PTSD that we're going to experience right now. Like, this is going to be such a big matter as we come out of this pandemic. You have 63 to 77% of battered women suffering from depression. You have 38 to 75% of battered women experiencing some form of anxiety. And 57 of these women with a history of abuse also presented with a history of depression, bipolar disorder, PTSD, substance abuse, or anxiety, compared to 28% of the women who had no experience of intimate partner violence. So yet another layer, another heavy layer on top of the already heavy layers that everyone is experiencing. It can be rather heartbreaking, very heartbreaking to hear.
It is. It's heartbreaking. Just hearing it without it be us being in the midst of the storm, right? And on top of the things that they had to deal with, like, possibly, not be lack of work, not having jobs, trying to figure out where to eat, if they're going to have this or that, trying to stay alive, trying not to contract the virus, trying not to, all this stuff. They had to be concerned about their lives and the real, real talk, right?
Yeah.
And they had to be concerned about their well-being. And many of them have children.
Yes.
Right? That they were able to hide some of this from their children because their children may have been in school, but now their children are not. So that's opened up a whole nother dynamic. Now, what are the children seeing?
Right.
What influence is that having? Are the children also being trapped up in this domestic violence situation? Now, when we talk about domestic violence, we, always seem to think, for one, a man abusing a woman, but it could definitely go the other way around. And also, it could be mothers abusing children, or men or fathers, boyfriends abusing children. It's domestic violence, right? And so, whereas sometimes even with the children, it maybe things were, I guess, alleviated, if you will, in some respects, when they were in school because of fear that somebody might see it at school. Now they're not at school. So what about that? What about them now being home with the abuser, with the parents that's abusive, right? Do they definitely have a hotline to call, but is it told to them that, hey, this is a domestic violence hotline and what your experience is domestic violence? Because I think a lot of people are not aware of what that entails. Like, they're not, they think of, okay, somebody is like beating me down to the ground, and that's domestic violence. But it could be verbal, it could be mental, it could be, spiritual abuse, it could be, physical abuse, it could be sexual abuse, it could be so many things that can constitute as domestic violence. And so, where's the help? Where's the escape? Especially now, if city commissioners are shutting down non-violent crimes, right? Which these are violence. But these are violent. People die, every day at the hands of, of someone that they thought that they loved or loved them, right? They die every day. Children, boyfriends, girlfriends, husband, wives. So that's a bunch of crap that, this wouldn't be considered one of those offenses in which someone could be dispatched. So, like, what can they do in the meantime? I think you touched upon it a little bit, but what can they do in the meantime if the police won't even help them?
Well, some things that can be done is, who do you confide in? Who are your friends? Who is it that you can talk to and reach out to? See, a lot of times, Coach CeCe, people don't, when they are in a violent or domestic violence situation, it goes unreported. Part of it is because they feel, it's a few reasons why they don't report. One is because of the fact that they're trying to keep the family together. They do it in the name of their children. They want their children to have both parents in their kids' lives. They feel guilty, that they have allowed the situation to happen. Because violence can be about control. You're trying to exert your power and dominance over someone. You get a person in a place who is being battered, to have them to think that they deserve something that they've done to deserve what they're getting. So now it's a psychological matter. Now they have been psychologically disempowered. Like, they are now psychologically taken by the situation to believe that they deserve it, and this is what it's supposed to be. This is what a relationship really is. Like, we used to talk about this before, about relationships just growing up. and dating people and being in situations where girls at the time would think that, all right, well, love means that if you hit me, that means you love me. And if you don't hit me, that means you don't love me. So it's just very interesting how people that are in domestic violence situations take in and in a different perspective in what this relationship is about and how they don't report it for those various reasons. And it makes it challenging for the reporting to happen, to help or to give help where needed and necessary because of those reasons. So what can happen nevertheless in the situation? You still find someone that you can confide in, to talk to. Look to them, make a plan, try to see what you can do in helping yourself out in the situation by talking to that person that you confide in. Having a safety plan, this is very important. We always encourage, because at one point I was working at a domestic violence shelter in Maryland, and hearing the stories, Coach CeCe, it was heartbreaking, because honestly, self-disclosure, I was in an abusive relationship at one time, and I was very young, and it easily could have been a situation where I believe that that's what I deserve, that this is what relationships are about. And I just looked at it, well, I believed and wanted to believe that he loved me. And I equated that, though, with him hurting me and harming me. Thank God that one day I had to make the decision. I had to decide, like, you know what? I'm tired of this. I'm tired of getting hurt. I'm tired of being abused. I'm tired of it. And it was not aligning with my core value. As much as I wanted to just look at what I thought love was, because I was trying in the midst of the abuse and the hurt and the pain, I was trying to find something in this to justify for me to stay in it. And I tried to overlook all that stuff of what was not aligning to what I believed in or what my parents had instilled in me. I was trying to find something to hold on to, because I guess I took it as, you know what, this is love. And maybe if this is love, then maybe I'm not lovable because I'm getting harmed. And I guess I don't love myself enough because I'm allowing it. I had to make a decision one day that, you know what, my life is worth way more than this. And it has to be something better on the other side. But I got to make a decision to get out. So I really encourage those individuals who are listening to this conversation to please, it still applies in terms of the fear stage, learning stage, and the growth stage. You have to make a decision. You know, if anything, if you are at a place where you don't value yourself enough, if you need an anchor or you need something to empower you to do something about it, think about your children. Would you want, because remember, children, they soak everything up like a sponge. It's not based on what you tell them. It's based on what they're looking and watching. They learn based on experience, on behavior. They're looking at how you're doing and how you're not doing. And that is how they interpret things, because it's just human nature. If we have big question marks, we're going to answer them. We have to. We can't leave question marks in our head. And so they can conclude that as well, and this is what love is all about. You know, it's about putting your hands on one another. It's about, you know, sacrificing yourself in the name of love, even if that means death. You don't know how they're interpreting. So if anything, look at it differently. Instead of your concern is trying to keep a happy family together, think about the long-term effects that it can have on your children. And reconsider, making sure that you have a plan in place, a safety plan, person, someone that you can confide in. Another tip is having that safety plan, not only a safety plan, but having equipment together, like making sure that you have extra copies of your identification, whether it's your passport, whether it's your ID, the kid's ID, and have it somewhere where if you need to get to a certain place and you no longer stay there, that, like Coach CeCe was saying, if there is some type of safety house, I'm sure that they are still open. I'm not sure, but you know, this is something that we can look into and provide those resources for you to be of support. And again, we're here at your service, that you can always utilize us to talk to us one-on-one, and we'll look and work with you to help you through this ordeal. But yeah, making sure that you have things already in place and ready, so that if and when you have to leave, do what you have to do. I know that this is the pandemic. I know that right now is like being like in a rock and a hard place, but we definitely want to see you survive and your children survive. So making sure that you have those things in place, having identification ready, prepared, having extra keys, making sure that there isn't anything that's stopping you, having whatever little bit of money that you may have left, you know, holding on to that if in case you do have to make your great escape. What do you think, Coach CeCe?
That's some great tips, some great things. You know, connect with those friends or loved ones, and having, you know, things in order to be able to have an escape route, escape plan. I wanted to leave the domestic violence hotline number, which is 800-799-723. I'm sorry, 7233. So 1-800-799-7233. So we just wanted to leave that with you. I also want to there was something that I was going to say about the situation. Just get more vocal. I think the more and more you become vocal about it with, you know, your, like Dr. Sarah said, your loved ones or your friends, your other friends, then it becomes real. So we had kind of talked about earlier about journaling and writing things down, and when it gets on paper, it becomes real. So I would even suggest for those who are experiencing or find themselves in the midst of a domestic violence situation to journal, right? So get a journal and start writing about, you know, what's going on in your life, because it can serve as encouragement to yourself as you go back and read some pages to say, you know, now you're looking at it from the outside, you know, but although it's about you, that it may encourage you to make the necessary changes. But also it's a documentation of what's going on. So if something happens, it's written down, and it can serve as a legal document, you know, in some ways as well. I would like to think that there are safe houses still open, because people do care, right? We care, right? And so even in the midst of this pandemic, there are people who still are first responders and frontline workers, right? And this is a very serious situation, and to many, many people who have a heart for people, they're still open in regards to having safe houses and things. And so I don't want you all to think that there's no help for me, right? Because we're in a situation and all this help is going there. Definitely, if you find yourself, or if you know anyone finding themselves in the middle of a storm such as domestic violence, to call the 1-800 number, which is 799-7233, and they should have a list of different safe houses in the area. And as Dr. Sarah said, if you have some things packed up, or you have your documentation in a particular order and in the place, it helps for an easier way to escape, right? And so I just wanted to say something about how sometimes people find themselves in domestic violence situations because they have the narrative in their head that if he hits me, then he loves me, right? Well, how did they come up with that narrative? Perhaps one way is because they were being hit or abused by their parent, right? So, for example, if you were getting beatings and hit and everything and yelled at and cursed at and everything by your parent, your mom, for example, the person whom you love, right, the most, the one you first saw when you came out of the womb, and the one who feeds you and clothes you, but do these other things, and then turns around and probably tells you that they love you all the time, but yet they hurt you. Then you grow up and you meet somebody who does the same thing, all in the name of love. Why would you think it's anything different? Your mom loves you. You couldn't even think that she didn't, right? That's unfathomable, right? She loves me and she hit me, so it must be true. So he said he loved me, he hits me, it must be true. If he don't hit me, then he don't love me, because my mom loves me, she hit me. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it's a faulty way of thinking, and that could definitely be of one reason why people find themselves in these situations. It could be so many things. They could have seen it. They could have seen it. Just like Dr. Sarah said, I think our parents used to say, don't be do what I say and not as I do. Mm-mm. And we're gonna do as children what you do, right? And so if a child is witnessing domestic violence, maybe their mom's boyfriend or husband is hitting them, or they're going through domestic violence on their own, or their mom is, hitting their dad or her boyfriend or something, then they may grow up and either be the abuser or be the abused, is what they saw, right? And so it's just so many reasons, and out of this pandemic can birth new situations, whereas maybe no one has ever teeter-tottered on that side of the fence, or maybe it wasn't quite like right there, but it was some signs, and now it's taking people over the edge because people are perhaps more angry, have more anxieties, are more stressed, and they don't know how to effectively deal with some of those negative emotions, and so they take it out on the people that's closest with them, and we probably can't get any closer at this time, especially if you're living in a home with someone. And so, I pray that there are no new births, in that regards, that, this doesn't have any new births as a result of the virus or the pandemic that's going on, that it does turn that way. And if there's any inkling, or if it is, then I pray that the people that have gotten abused or that are in these abusive relationships immediately, seek a way to get out, right, before it gets any more involved than what it is. And so this is a really serious topic. We could spend, so much time on all the intricate details of exactly what domestic violence is and how it affects so many people. I have someone in my family who I believe is being, abused. She curses him out. He curses her out. She might shove him. And when he gets frustrated, he might shove her back. But it's all kinds of MFs and Bs and Ns. And I'm like, this is not love. And I tell them all the time. And I try to give them examples. And so I'm thinking to myself, at such a young age, how could they get this, how could they cross these lines and think that this is love, right? And it could be that they had an abusive, and I believe that they did have an abusive mother, right? And so they could be an example of one of the people that I was talking about a little bit earlier, where, they're translating, well, my mom loved me, and so this must be love, and so this is what it is. Like, my mom called me all these names and B's and MFs and stuff like that, and she loved me, because that's my mom, right? And so how could he not love me? And so it's scary because, as I talk to her being so young, it's just like, don't you want more? It's like all she thinks right now and is that this is it. Like, so in a real way, if she gets out of this relationship and she meets the next one, probably is going to be abusive because, the law of attraction, right? So it's her mindset that's attracting certain things. And so until she's able to say, hey, that is not love. Hey, this is some clear examples of what love is. Hey, I love myself, right? Because in the true sense, it's work that she has to do within herself, self-love and self-care, to be able to say, I don't deserve this at all. And we talked about that a little bit earlier as well. When we get better, then situations around us get better. And so until that happens, even if the situation that she's currently in, she's not anymore, she may attract something else. And if she doesn't, by chance, attract the same thing, and she attracts someone that truly does love and care for her, she's going to push them away because it's not going to be received as love, where he could probably give her the world, never call her, be in her life, never call her N-word, never, none of that. But that's unfamiliar, right? And so now we're talking about the familiar versus the unfamiliar. And who would think that you would have to get out of your comfort zone to be treated right? to be treated like the queen that you are, to be treated like the king that you are. Like, that should be commonplace. But sometimes you might need to step out of your comfort zone in order to receive what is rightfully yours and what you truly deserve. So again, we just want to leave y'all some practical things to do. If you find yourself in a domestic violence situation, definitely call the hotline. Again, it's 1-800-799-7233, and to seek immediate shelter somewhere else, and to stay in contact with friends and family, and just write down, journal, tell someone, and love on yourself a little bit more.
And if you need to reach out to us, you make sure that you reach out to us.
Right. Because it's going to take some, we are equipped to help you change your way of thinking, and that's what it's going to take, changing your mindset.
Yes. So you make sure that you connect with us. You can email us, you can inbox us. We're on social media. On Facebook is Dr. Sarah Renee Langley. Cherrea is Cherrea Williams, is CHERREA. Williams, WILLIAMS. You can reach out to the both of us. We are at your service. We are here for you. So just make sure that you make that decision, that you know what, it's going to change starting today. It's going to change starting right now.
Amen.
Know that you are not alone. You're not alone. You are not alone.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that the next segment that comes to mind, Coach CeCe, suicide.
Right. Oh, yeah. We forgot about that. We shouldn't have forgot about that one, though.
Unfortunately, the rates have went up, and people just can't cope. So we definitely have to address those who are contemplating, who are thinking about that. We need to help them out too.
Right.
So in our next segment, we're going to take a break. We're going to come back, and we're going to address suicidality. All right.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. See you in a few.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.